He has time.
He's
Off
got
the left
him.
side. Dobbs is there. Leaping grab. Touchdown. Touchdown.
Hey, good morning, everyone. It's Ken and Ken in the morning. And no, we're not Eberflus and LaFleur sitting courtside of Marquette, but it's just as good because we're going to talk football, not eat popcorn and watch college basketball this morning. Rob, Ken, good morning. I know we got some other guys who'll filter in because we always seem to on our carousel of characters. And oh my God, it's raining free agents, guys. It's raining free agents. Teams, this Ken and I were saying before, pre-show, man, it's like this year is stock. It is every day, every second you go to Bleacher Report, so-and-so has been cut. Fire sale in Buffalo, fire sale in Denver. People are getting, Miami's cutting people. Still got to cut some more people probably. They're still over the cap. We got a couple teams that got to be at the cap by what? By Monday. I think it's by Monday they have to beat the cap. Then they can go back over the cap, and they got to be under the cap by week 1. But, deadline football, got to love it, create some drama. Rob and I hate it, but we love it at the same time because it gives us something to talk about. But it is raining. Let's look at Buffalo first. Throw the overlay up, and here we go. This is just a small.
Buffalo has released Tre'Davious White and Jordan Poyer. And there's also major rumors that the Giants are interested in trading for Diggs. Is Buffalo's window starting to close now with these moves that are going on?
Now, here's the interesting part of it, because they're still not under the cap, yet they signed Mitch Trubisky. Which
is puzzling as shit to me.
Well, no, it makes sense to me. Trubisky is a good fit for them, and they're a good fit for him. When he was there before,
I get that part of it.
Worked for both parties. Like, for whatever reason, they get Mitch and Mitch gets them, and it works. I think the Steelers could have worked for Mitch, but the media in Chicago ruined him so much that Pittsburgh really, they gave him a 2 or 3 game chance and said, nope, you're done. So I think he was ruined before he got there. And Buffalo's like, you know what? We'll pay you. We'll pay you to be the backup to Allen. We'll get rid of our other Allen and keep you. Because it was Allen and Allen at quarterback, which I thought was funny last year. But, it's raining free agents. And so now, of course, we get to sit here and figure out who's going where, who's signing what. But I read an article yesterday, and it was Bears specific. But I think it's very germane for all of them. The guy it was on Bleacher Report, I believe the article I read might have been Bleacher. I find articles from all kinds of places. Anyways, he was saying, what's Ryan Poles going to do with free agency? And he opens up by saying, last year, the tampering period starts Monday. Last year, 30 minutes after the tampering period, Poles inked Tremaine Edmunds, right? And so what's he going to do this year? And he started listing off free agents. But look, did anyone have Edmunds and Edwards even linked to the Bears last year? No. Did anyone have the running back we signed last year linked to the Bears? No. How many guys that he signed last year that people linked to the Bears and all the articles and clickbait and everything before free agency? 0. Think about that for a minute. And they spent last year, and they acquired players last year. All right, now think about your team. How many players last year that you were linked to did you actually sign?
Absolutely none, unfortunately.
So it makes me rethink, when we read in these reports, Bears linked to Saquon, Packers linked to Saquon going to Houston. Odds of that happening, probably about 2% to any of those teams, because we're talking about it. So the thing I think that's the challenge to the three of us this morning is to be different than everyone else that we see, that we read on Bleacher Report, CBS, ESPN, wherever you get your football articles you read throughout the day, right? That you find, you go, ooh, let me read about this. We need to think where the players aren't being talked about. Like in Chicago, they're not talking about edge rushers, they're talking about the same two. You know who they're not talking about? Young. That's who I think the Bears are going to sign. Young. No one's even linking them right now. When it comes to running back, you know, who are they not talking about going to Chicago? Who are they not talking about going to Green Bay? You look at safety. You guys need one.
Oh yeah, I
Already
expect
being
us
loaded.
definitely to be going out and grabbing us a safety with how flooded this market is, especially since Denver had just released Justin Simmons.
But it's
Now,
not going to be
Rob-
Simmons.
well,
It's probably not
well,
going to be Simmons. It's probably one of the guys that we're not even looking at on the top of the list. So that's the thing. I mean, honestly, that's probably what it's going to be for our teams. The way, if you look at the track record, so of all the safeties out there, and the Bears are going to be hunting for a safety. The Packers aren't the only one, so there's a little competition there. Where do you think Rob Goody's going to go on the safety hunt? Is he go? Are you guys going to make? And we talked about this pre-show. The Packers haven't made a big splash probably since the minister, right?
Yeah,
You guys have
yeah.
always made the medium splash. Who's that medium splash at safety going to be that we're not talking about already?
Honestly, I don't know how he wants to do this. I mean, with the new DC, I mean, Goody's not. He's saying we're going to do stuff. He's going to make a splash, but he didn't say where. It could be running back. I mean, because obviously we're having issues with the, I want to say we're going to pick up a free agent safety, but I mean, who's out there that's in our price range? I mean, that's the thing. I mean, we're not paying Buda Baker money. I mean, I don't see paying this guy $20 million a year to come play, or whatever it is, $18 million or whatever he's asking. Ungodly amount. Fucking ridiculous.
Okay, don't everyone freak out. I'm changing our background for a minute because I want to pull up from the House Hall report side of the house the safety free agents. Okay, Antoine Winfield, obviously.
2 years, $20 million. Yeah, Winfield's he's the one I wanted.
I wanted him too. He's been tagged.
Yeah, see, $18 million. That's what I was talking. That's insane. But
Xavier McKinney, Geno Stone.
Maybe. Yeah, I mean,
Geno Stone or Jordan Fuller from the Rams. I got a feeling that that's going to be a major target.
And honestly, this list is probably going to go up as we get closer to the deadline next week, man, for free agency. The teams are going to start. We haven't even made any cuts yet. I mean, other than who we just didn't re-sign, you know what I mean? We just let their contracts expire. But I mean, big splash comes. There's going to be more guys. So I mean, it's hard to say. So.
And speaking of that, Rob, Green Bay's been in talk with Savage's agent that depending on what his market value is, that they might come back to re-sign him and bring him back.
I noticed he stopped talking. He shut his mouth because that's the smart thing to do. Don't say, don't burn that.
Oh, yeah, because for a bit there, he was posting some pretty cryptic tweets, if I can talk properly. But it was making it seem like he was on his way out the door and he was going to end up being just another one of the disgruntled Packers that left. But now we're starting to see some traction the opposite way. So maybe Goody did take a little bit to heart when Aaron Rodgers told him about how dirty he was doing some of these Packers players on their way out.
Yeah, he didn't care what Rodgers said. They never do care when these players say that crap out there. These GMs do what they're going to do, but let's look at the edges too. I mean, obviously Josh Allen, Brian Burns, they're off the board. They're tagged. Chase Young is still good at 13 mil. Greenard's good at 13 mil. Danielle Hunter, of course, is 20. But now there's some other guys out there who've been cut in the last 2 days. This slide was made probably about a week and a half ago. There's some guys out there like no one's talking about Jonathan Greenard. No one's talking about.
We talked about Poyer. I mean, that's a possibility. He's on his way down. He's not, he's at that age, but but for a little, I mean, bro, that's what we do. I mean, look at Owens and all those guys. That's what they were. They're just free agent guys, man. I know he's kind of old, but fuck, we'll see.
So we got a go pack go from Don.
Hey, Don. Good morning.
Good morning, Don.
Joe?
Poyer might still have something in the tank, though.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I say. We could get him for a relatively good price. I mean, even you guys are probably looking at him. I guarantee you, Poles is looking at him.
Oh, I'm sure.
For a little, you guys
safety,
have money out the ass. You guys, I mean, anything.
Well,
safety is a
Poles,
position
though,
of need for us too.
Poles doesn't like to sign guys over the age of like 27. He might go to 28. He's not going to go to 30. But I made the argument a couple weeks ago that he might, for a guy like Danielle Hunter, might be an exception to the policy, if you will. Because there's always an exception to policy, right? Danielle Hunter might be that exception to policy because he's been very injury free in his career, and the injury he did have was for soft tissue, not like a knee or a shoulder or something like that. It was a soft tissue injury.
And very productive.
Yeah, he's highly productive, injury free. So Danielle Hunter. Now Ken, stop it. Now you gave it the disease to me. Danielle Hunter is kind of maybe the exception to policy, but I mean the Raiders are going to be looking at all these cuts too and going, okay, we can address some needs. I mean, look at they've got the ability to do not a complete overhaul, but become very competitive very fast because they've got a good defense.
Yeah, and I think the Raiders are all in on the Chris Jones sweepstakes, to be honest with you.
Oh, could you imagine that defense with Chris Jones on it?
I still don't see a way that Kansas City lets him get out the door. I think that they're going to pull some type of cap magic, something. They'll release somebody over letting him go.
Here's the problem with the way they did it.
They're going to have to.
Here's the problem with the way they did it. I think their intent is to trade Snead, right? So they tag him and say, go get me a trade. And look, the rule is 2 first-round picks, but it doesn't have to be, right? Mm-hmm. They can negotiate to a first round and a second round or a first round and a third round, whatever. They can negotiate that NLD with a team that wants to trade for him technically. And I think someone's going to give him the $110 million he wants, right? And I was listening to Pat Kerwin. He made a great argument yesterday. Like someone's going to give him the $110 million. He's going to get it. They had a very knowledgeable Chiefs fan who called in, and they were talking about this. Like someone's going to pay the dude the 110. The problem is the compensation, the trade. Who's going to give you first round? It's like, well, no, you can negotiate out of it. And I think that's the tack KC was taking. Like, find a trade partner, and okay, we'll let you go. And then because we don't have to pay you, now we'll pay Jones. The problem is going to be this: if this trade does not happen by Monday, a guy like Poles or a GM from Vegas, or a GM from, say, Detroit, or some other team that is willing to spend, that doesn't have much cap, but willing to spend all their cap on Chris Jones, will come in and swoop him away on Monday. So basically, Kansas City has until the end of the weekend to get a trade for Snead, or they're losing Jones. That's probably the reality of it. And then at that point, if you're a Kansas City and you lose Jones because of this gambit, do you then stick with Snead, or do you, if someone comes on Tuesday with a trade offer, do you take it and lose Jones and Snead?
No, you got to keep Snead at that point. If you lost Jones, you got to keep one or the other bare minimum. But I think they're going to try their damnedest to try to keep both.
Yeah, and I think deep down, Chris Jones probably wants to stay in Kansas City. But if Kansas City can't find a way to get him money that he feels he deserves, I think that he might look to go somewhere where he could play against Kansas City to kind of prove to them, like, hey, see, you should have gave me my money, because now I'm gonna be a thorn in your ass. Like
we see it a lot of fucking times. Rob and I've seen it multiple times with being Green Bay fans. How many times do we see one of our guys leave, and where do they go? Right to one of the divisional rivals.
Exactly. And like, so there was a funny conversation on Twitter the other day where this guy posted that exact thing. He was like, if Chris Jones, like if the Chiefs don't pay him and the Raiders do, like, I'm sure Chris Jones wouldn't mind the opportunity of going and playing against Kansas City twice, And then one of the Kansas City Chief players saw this tweet and he said, he tagged Chris Jones in it, and he said, "If you do this, you're dead to us." Chris Jones, all he tweeted back was like a handshake, and like
Well,
you
could take that.
You gotta imagine that Chris Jones.
A handshake could mean like deal. You know what I mean? Like,
bro, there's a lot of Packer fans who do not like Brett Favre just because he went and played for the Vikings, bro. Mm-hmm. That was like, to them, that was like fucking major like betrayal. Major.
I get that, but at the same time, players got to play, and they're going to go where the money is at certain points in their career.
Yeah, but Brett Favre didn't do that. Brett Favre went to the Jets and waited for his opportunity to come back.
But for Brett
That's
Favre,
what that was.
Brett Favre was no longer welcome to play in Green Bay. So at that point, if those guys are mad because he ended up going to Minnesota, what I got to say to them? Who gives a shit?
Well, he grew up and got over it eventually, but I mean, that's why he's out. That's why he's in the Hall of Fame.
Bears fans getting mad that McMahon went and played for the Packers with Favre.
Yeah, see?
But then McMahon totally redeemed himself with the greatest.
So did McMichael. So did McMichael.
Exactly. But like, I think though the best one though was McMahon because he got away with the biggest troll of all time when he went to the White House after they won the Super Bowl, and he's at the White House with the rest of the Packers. And he's wearing a Bears jersey with the president. I mean, that was the greatest troll of all time at that point. Maybe still is, right? But I mean, look at the Raiders. I mean, dude, if you get Chris Jones with Max Crosby, that defense, which was already pretty sick, is going to be just redonkulously sick. And then if you pull around and pull up Russ for $2 million a year, because not many people are talking about Russ going to the Raiders, they're talking about Russ going to Minnesota, right? Or the loser of the Kirk Cousins sweepstakes. But let's say he goes Russ. Dude, that's two division rivals you've just poached good players from. You picked off one of the best defensive players in the division that wasn't already on your team, and you've picked up a solid quarterback who might be the answer or the bridge you're looking for in Vegas.
And you're not done yet.
And here's the beauty of it. If you pick up Russ, Denver's paying him for the next 2 years effectively. And if you pick up Chris Jones, and then you're still not done.
The Raiders could get Chris Jones for $30 million. They could get Russ for $2 million, and they'd still have $20 million in cap space.
Yeah,
like and maybe more, because I'm hearing by the time free agency starts, they could actually have $70 million in cap space.
Go get you King Henry too while you're at it, man. Go get King Henry, man. Josh don't want to sign. Fuck him.
I was gonna say. Henry does kind of seem like a Raiders type of running back.
Once again, though, why not? I know, Joe, you missed the comment, but
fucking Eckler.
Everywhere that everyone thought last year Poles was going to sign, every player that was tagged, the Bears are interested in. The Bears didn't even talk to most of them, right? I mean, all these reports we see online in the papers, on TV, 99.9% of them are absolutely not even close to even remotely happening. But we talked about the Bears are interested in Saquon. He's probably not even talking to Saquon. The Packers want Saquon. Dude, he probably hasn't even looked at his numbers. I mean,
I think that there's some smoke to the Chris Jones rumors, because defensive tackle is one of our biggest needs. Yeah. And so if you have a chance to go out in free agency and get the best defensive tackle in the game,
and be from the division, I agree
and you poach him from Kansas City, it's a twofer. You weaken Kansas City's defense, and on top of that, you now create a top defensive line in football. Because to me, that's what that would be. If you had Malcolm Kuntz, Max Crosby, Tyree Wilson, and Chris Jones, like that, to me, that's the top defensive line in football at that point.
And the thing is,
or at least it's the top. If you're not willing to concede a top,
one of the best.
I'm going to say top 5 unit for sure, dude.
Everyone's a top 5 unit, it seems these days. But
you don't got a quarterback.
I'd agree. No, but he's talking defensive front. I'd agree it's going to be one
Talking
of the,
defensive line, dude.
yeah, it's going to be one of the nastiest defensive lines in the
That's all he had.
NFL. Definitely the nastiest in their division. But I mean, look, if that happens, the GM in Kansas City's got to be
What's
worried
up,
about the
Ice
job
Leg?
because
What
you
up?
just got, you just did a risky move and got burnt big time. If they don't trade Snead by the end of the weekend and they lose Jones on Monday, because
You know what?
basically they have to trade Snead.
The
And look,
GM
that's-
just won, but the GM just won 3 Super Bowls, man. Like,
I know.
as long as you have Patrick Mahomes, you're in the sweepstakes, dude. Like, you have
Yeah.
a chance. So
They're going for 3, baby. They're going for 3.
Well, it's definitely going to be a knock on him. I'm not saying he's going to get fired, but it's
No,
definitely a huge knock on him. Because
Well,
I mean, if you pull
Knock me
out
all
the
you want with
gambit,
my 3 rings, dude. Like,
I
you know,
know.
I'm gonna go
Well,
cry into my 3 Super Bowl
yeah, but
rings.
remember, they're
You know what I
going
mean?
for the. But remember, they're going for the three-peat, right? I mean, this would have to significantly hurt their chances because I get the gambit. If you trade Snead, you're going to get draft picks for this year. So if you can get a first rounder and a second rounder out of it, right? Which is
Mhm.
what they're thinking, depending on who you trade. Like, let's say you trade with Green Bay. Now, Green Bay, your first round pick is what? Number 18, 20,
25.
right?
26.
25.
25.
It's
So,
25.
so Green Bay might not be his trading partner, but if he can find, let's say, someone around 14, 15, 16, maybe a little bit lower to trade Snead to, now you can get impact to replace Snead on the cheap and keep Chris Jones, and then pick up another piece with a second rounder to help out his budgetary constraints, right? So I understand the gambit, but if he can't pull that off, dude, you just lost one of the best defensive tackles in the league. And now
And
you
one
have
of the
no
best corners.
And well, no, you can because now you just don't
Oh,
trade him.
well, he
Now
has
you
Snead tag,
you're going to
yeah.
pay him.
But
Now you're
still,
going to pay him the 110 million.
but that's the thing, Ken, is that like you could take both Chris Jones and L'Jarius Snead off the Chiefs, and the Chiefs are still going to be in the playoffs next year. Because Patrick Mahomes, if you have Patrick Mahomes, you're in the sweepstakes, man. He's going to get you to the dance. I'm not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl again,
Right.
but like he's going to get you there, and once you get there, everybody's got a chance, man. So
Let's just call it as it is. I mean, I'm not saying the AFC is weak by any means, but it's an easier road to go through the AFC than it is the NFC. Like,
You really
Mahomes
think
is
so?
pretty set up. Mahomes is pretty set up to go through. Like, you know, you got teams like the Ravens. Lamar always chokes in the postseason, so you know you don't have to worry about the Ravens taking you
Fucking
down.
choker.
Burrow, I think the real
There you
competition
go.
here is Burrow. You know, if Burrow's healthy, you know,
Yeah,
he
I
has
was
a
just
really
gonna
good
say,
record
dude,
against Patrick Mahomes.
I don't think the AFC is an easier route. I think
agree.
that Mahomes just has the number of these great quarterbacks, except for Burrow. So I think Burrow is the only thing standing in the way of Patrick Mahomes at this point.
I mean,
Yeah,
look at
that's what I'm
Buffalo's
saying.
obviously obviously severely weakened after this week, right?
I think Buffalo's window is closed.
Dude,
You know,
there's no doubt in my mind the NFC is the harder road to get to the Super Bowl. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. Like, AFC compared to NFC. NFC has really the hard hitters of the NFL that you have to go through. There's a lot of more talented teams on the NFC that you have to go through.
We can all laud Mahomes. Yeah, Mahomes is really good, but dude, you're taking a major cornerstone of that defense and you're losing it. And it's not like I'm losing like a middle of the road player, a guy I'd like to keep. You're losing a guy if you lose Jones, who's probably the heart and soul of that defense. And he's not easy to replace. And that takes Mahomes' chance of a three-peat and knocks it down a ton. Because look, I don't care if he's putting up 35 points a game. If that defense is hurt enough and now they're giving up 42, great, put up 35 points every game because you're giving up 42. I don't care. You're still losing.
But I still think Mahomes is good enough that they're still going to go to the playoffs. Like,
no one's saying they're not going to go to the playoffs. It's like with Kansas City, going to the playoffs is not the question, right? For them, the quest is a three
winning the Super Bowl. But my point though, Ken, is that once you get to the playoffs, it's a whole new season and anything can happen. Like once
Yeah, but if
all you
you
gotta
if you're
do
if you
all you
lost
gotta
the
do is punch your ticket to the dance, because once
dude,
you're in
it's
the
not.
dance, anything can happen.
Yeah, I get it. We all make their role. If you get to the dance, anything can happen. That's true. But now you hit, look at in your division, your offenses you've been facing in the regular season aren't all good, and in the postseason, you expect those offenses to be middle of the road or better, right? Middle of the road or better. So you come up against a Baltimore and their offense is clicking, and you don't have Chris Jones to chase down Lamar. He's more important than Snead, right? Because if you're not getting pressure on Lamar, now he's going to dissect you. Now he's going to run on you. Now he's going to do things that he can't do on you right now because Jones is there. It hurts them a lot more to lose Jones than it does Snead. So this is a pretty big gamble.
Yeah,
by
let me
them,
ask
right?
you this though.
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree
we
with you.
doubt the
It's a
Chiefs.
gamble. Go ahead, Isaac.
My bad. Every time we doubt the Chiefs, every season, they fall apart. Couple games, maybe here and there. Oh, the Chiefs are not going to make it. The Chiefs are not going to go anywhere in the playoffs. All of a sudden, where are they at? You know what I mean? They're either in the Super Bowl or a game before it. So you know what I mean? You can doubt the Chiefs all you want, but they're the team that is setting the standard right now. They're the dynasty
and
right
who
now.
knows? Maybe they, like the Packers had the guy behind Bakhtiari and it worked out, right? When Bakhtiari went down, they have a 7th round or whatever, late round draft pick, and he comes in and plays great. Maybe the Chiefs have something at defensive tackle, or if they lose Chris Jones, they have a guy who's going to step in and be great. And I'm not doubting them, not saying they're not going to. I know. I'm not saying they're not going to make the playoffs, but this is a pretty risky gambit that could significantly, that has the potential, let me put it this way to make Isaac feel better, could potentially damage that defense to such a point that a three-peat's out the window.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Ken. Like your take is solid, right? It is a gambit. It's a very serious gamble, right? But I'm simply pointing out that the Chiefs have the best coaching in the league. Like we thought after Tyreek left, we thought, oh, there's no way they're winning another Super Bowl. They go and win the Super Bowl the year that Tyreek leaves, right?
Yeah.
Then it's like now they're going to lose Chris Jones and L'Jarius Sneed, or they're going to keep Sneed and they might lose Chris Jones.
They're not losing both. They're going to keep one of them.
I don't really count MVS as a loss, to be honest with you. Like,
yeah,
that's addition by subtraction.
We can say that, but yet he came up big for them when it counted, the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm just bullshitting. I'm just like kind of clowning, like it's addition by subtraction. But like the Chiefs are gonna go in the draft. They're gonna get a receiver, and I've actually seen Xavier Worthy marked to them, which is like my worst nightmare because now they got their Tyreek again.
A lot too.
Now they got their Tyreek again. But in the second round, they could go get a guy like Tavondre Sweat, and he could come in. And I feel with Spagnuolo coaching, in a couple of years, he'll be their new Chris Jones. That's the thing is that they can get rid of a guy, and they seem to whatever guy they put in his place, it seems to work out.
I mean, look, they hit on that young wide receiver they had in the draft last year. That kid came up huge at the end of the season.
Rice, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they lose. Yeah, I don't think they lose Chris Jones. You know what I mean? Chris Jones is the guy they're retaining. The other, Snead is the guy
that's why they franchise tagged
Snead. They tagged Snead.
They did that just to put him on hold. That strong arm, like we were talking yesterday.
Here was the gambit that Kansas City made. Isaac. This is what spawned that whole conversation. They tagged Snead. Now look at they can trade Snead. Like if they tagged him in a way that would say, Isaac, you're GM. And you go to Snead, say, I'll give you the $110 million you want. Here's the offer sheet, sign it. He could then take it back to the Chiefs, and the Chiefs say, oh, we're not going to match it. Now you owe draft picks, 2 first-rounders. However, they can trade it out, too. So you can go, okay, hey, KC, I want Snead. I'll pay him the $110 million he wants, but I don't want to give you 2 first-rounders. Let's negotiate, right? And then it can negotiate out of the 2 first-rounders. So maybe you say, you know what, I'll give you my first-rounder this year and my second-rounder or my third-rounder. Or whatever, and Kansas City can trade him. So that's what Kansas City's hoping is going to happen, is that they can trade Snead hopefully by Sunday, pick up a first-round draft pick this year, and maybe if they get lucky, a first-rounder next year, or at least some other piece of draft capital that they can fill needs with. If that doesn't happen, though, now they're their bet is that happens, and then they have money to go, hey, Chris, here's the Brinks truck. We're going to pay you big time. Thank you very much. It worked. But if no one takes the bait on Snead this weekend, and now Monday, 1 o'clock Eastern happens, right? Noon Central, and no one's made a trade for Snead, Joe's GM, hey, Chris, Vegas Raiders calling. Actually, no, it's not even that. Hey, Chris, it's Mr. Davis. I'm going to pay you a shit ton of money to leave Kansas City and come to Vegas. What you say?
Yeah, but I think teams will go after Snead. Like Detroit, for instance. Detroit doesn't have a solid cornerback. You know what I mean? A solid DB in their lineup. You know what I mean? They can that, and they just let go of Tracy Walker. Sutton was really garbage for them. You know, so they really need a corner. And Brad Holmes has the money. He has the picks. You know, he has everything in line to make a trade for Snead. And he probably does that, you know. And then there's other teams, too, that need corners that are going to go after the Chiefs for Snead because Snead is a proven commodity, right? He just won a Super Bowl. He was locked down in the postseason. He's a perfect fit for many teams and many suitors. So I think a Snead deal will come. It'll eventually come, but it won't come right now, but it'll come a little bit later on.
Can I play devil's advocate a little bit?
Hold on, Joe, put a pin in it for 1 second. I'll go right back to you. In the comments, for those of you watching, would you, if your team made the trade for Snead, would you do it? And what are you willing to give up to make the trade for Snead? Go ahead, Joe.
I was just going to say, can I play devil's advocate a little bit, or can I propose an interesting scenario? So if, let's say, like Isaac said, I don't disagree with Isaac that there will be interest in Snead, right? But let's say it's an AFC team that's interested in Snead, right? They know the same things that we know, like Ken just said. Like, they know this whole Monday scenario rolls around. So what's to say that an AFC team doesn't say, hey, we want Snead, but let's wait till Monday or Tuesday to make an offer so that we can weaken Kansas City in the process by them losing Chris Jones? Like, if I'm a GM, if I'm a GM, that's a masterclass in playing some politics right there.
Yeah,
dude.
at the same time, if you wait, though, you lose out on Snead. You know what I mean?
That's what I was just about to say.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like how teams missed out on trading for AJ Brown. You know what I mean? Eagles jumped on that. Eagles jumped on that and they didn't even know AJ Brown was available. Jumped on that and got him right away. You get your guy. You know, if you want your guy, you get your guy. You know what I mean?
Let me ask this question. Who would you rather keep?
Oh, Chris Jones, 100%. Chris Jones is the leader of that defense. Spagnuolo really wants his guy, which is Chris Jones. He's the one that makes the defense run. Yeah. So Snead is expendable at this point, you know, for the Chiefs, even though he's a great player. But you have to put in line either Chris Jones or Snead. Easy answer, Chris Jones.
Yeah.
So let's say Mr. Davis calls up Chris Jones Monday at noon Central, 1 Eastern. Says, Chris, here's the Brinks truck. Here's a free pass at MGM to gamble as much as you want on my credit card for the first 6 months.
Here's a lifetime pass to the Bunny Ranch.
Yeah.
Right. Come to Vegas. And Chris says, I can't pass that up. And you know what? We're going to guarantee 80% of your contract. Right? So it'd be something stupid, right? It would probably have to be something stupid to go to Vegas, right? But let's say he does that. And now Chris Jones goes to Vegas. Now, Kansas City, you have to pay Snead. But now another team comes up, say Detroit, and say, hey, Chris, we really want you up here. We were like 2 seconds from a Super Bowl ourselves. You want 110? We'll give you 130, and we'll pay the 2 first-round pick fee to Kansas City. What do you say? And now they sign to an offer sheet that Kansas City can't match. They spend all their free agency money, but they're going to get the guy they want. Kansas City just lost their 2 best defensive players like that.
I want to pass the Bunny Ranch. I like how you said that about the Raiders, and Joe's hat literally almost flew off his head. He was like all happy.
Hey, this is just fantasy talk, Joe.
Bro, I'm telling you,
chill, bro.
If the Raiders end up with Chris Jones, my 300-pound ass is gonna do cartwheels, dude. Like,
hey, make sure you videotape that shit.
Bear Down Mike makes a great point too. Like he says, Chris Jones, no other guy to replace his production, but Snead. There's a handful of guys that can do the same thing. I think they kind of jacked up with this gambit. Steven, the free agency. Okay, that's a tough question.
Next week.
So
next Monday.
technically, free agency begins on Wednesday. However, they've now created this period called the legal tampering period because the new league year starts Wednesday. So that's when you can officially sign. However, in the legal tampering period, you can sign guys on Monday and Tuesday. It won't count until Wednesday. But you can ink them. You can sign the contract Monday at 1300. That's 1 p.m. for you civilian types. Eastern Standard Time Monday, noon Central. But the contract won't take effect until the 31st, i.e. the Bears trade the other day. Pending the physical, it won't take effect until Wednesday when the new league year starts. So teams can already make trades for players. They can, and starting Monday, they can sign guys not currently on their roster, but those transactions are not effective until Wednesday.
It's the same thing with cuts.
Do you think? Yeah, and I'll let you go right after Rob. Because then I'll let you answer this one. Do you think we're gonna get anything like what happened with Za'Darius and the Ravens, and then to the Vikings again?
Yeah.
Where you got a guy that already agreed to the contract, but since it's not official yet, oh no, I changed my mind. I'm going here instead. Do you think we're gonna see that again, Rob?
Oh, for sure, man. That's just guys gaming the system. I mean, that's all that is. But I mean, it's the same thing with their cuts. Like you're talking about this. It's everybody, like all the veterans who after June 1st, they count for this. I mean, they're all declaring these guys are going to be cut for June for that deadline now. And and they're being declared. And it's, I mean, I don't understand how you could do that. I mean, all right, now this guy's cut.
I like
but
that.
We got to wait till June 1st before we do it. But we're calling.
So, Rob, that hurts me and you because, deadline football. Now there's a deadline that we'll have nothing to talk about because they've already announced that the guy's going to be, hey, I'm cutting Rob on June 1st, everyone. So all you podcast shows that need a Packer fan, he's available. You can't touch him the June 1st, though, but he's going to be available June 1st. I kind of hate that like you do, but I kind of like that because it gives the player an opportunity then to start, or teams an opportunity to know, okay, Rob's going to be available on the 1st. I can maybe hold off on trying to sign so-and-so because I'd rather get Rob on the 1st. When, it's a weird thing. But TJ, there's a shit ton of rumors out there. We're just, we created our own this morning on this whole Chris Jones, Ladarius Sneed thing with the tag with Chris Jones going to the Raiders, which is making Joe very happy right now. So much stuff that happens. I think Joe's going to buy us all the adult beverage of our choice in Oodles if it happens, because then we can say, hey, we're the ones who came up with it, Joe. So you can thank us and send the case of beer.
If it happens, I'll call Mark Davis and ask him for lifetime passes to the Bunny Ranch for all of you.
Right. There you go.
You might have talked
Joe.
Hey, I want to stick the dagger a little bit into Joe. Chris Jones is going to make a verbal commitment to the Raiders, go back to the Chiefs.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, you know what?
Well,
that
now,
wouldn't
here's
hurt my
the thing,
feelings.
though, because
That
of
wouldn't
what
hurt my feelings at all because Chris Jones, he's a Chief. Like I kind of expect that his loyalty is there. I'm just kind of hoping that, if the money's right and, you have a chance, like Kansas City didn't want to pay you, maybe maybe Chris Jones has a little bit of, okay, well, I'm going to show you why you should have paid me.
Yeah.
And look, it's going to be, there's a difference what happened with some of the other guys that Ken and Robert talked about. Those were verbals. When these guys, when they sign a contract, dude, they sign a contract. It doesn't take effect until Wednesday, but it's just, they've signed a contract at that point. The teams have recourse. So if they get Chris Jones to put pen to paper and sign his name on a contract with the Las Vegas Raiders Monday afternoon, there's no going back from it. And if he does go back from it, the Raiders can, oh my God, they'll get a shit ton of compensation from everyone. I mean, that's still going to be a legal contract.
Here's where Chris Jones has leverage. Chris Jones is considered one of the best defensive tackles in NFL history. Is Snead one of the best corners in NFL history?
No.
So it's an easy decision. You put all your resources to get Chris Jones back. And if that means letting go of Snead, so be it. You still have one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL, Spagnuolo, that can make that defense work. And you have your main piece in Chris Jones back as your anchor. So
and you still have your first round draft pick, which you can turn around. Like, I have much more confidence that the Chiefs could use their first round draft pick, get a corner, and easily replace Snead than I do that they can replace Chris Jones.
And that's why they want to
get a guy
make
like
trade,
Kool-Aid.
though. But that's why they want to trade Snead out and pick up someone else's first round pick.
Yeah.
And a second round pick or a third round pick or maybe a player that they like on your roster that you wouldn't mind partying with to get Snead. I mean, it's a gambit, though, because if all of a sudden come Monday, no one's taking the bait, and now Chris Jones signs with Vegas Raiders for a truckload of money, and then a couple of days later, Detroit goes to Snead and says, hey, here's an offer sheet, and we'll pay the 2 first-round picks Kansas City, and we're going to overpay Snead because that's probably what it would take to get Kansas City to agree to it at that point. We're going to pay him more than you can, but we're going to give you both first-round picks, which, like you said, Isaac, Detroit can do, right? Yeah. They've got the flexibility with the way their roster is right now. I don't need a first-round pick this year or next year. I'm good. I can – and Brad Holmes drafts pretty good in the later rounds anyway. So they can – and all of a sudden you've lost your 2 best defensive players. Now, you look at – on the plus side for KC.
Yeah.
You'll pick up some draft capital this year or next year, and you still have a crap ton of money that you can go out and replace Snead pretty easily.
Well, the flip side of that is if they lose Chris Jones, then they match any offer for Snead. You know what I mean? And keep him on the roster. That's basically the business side of you got to think of is if Chris Jones is gone, your next best, possible defender on the team could be Snead. You have to keep him at all costs because you just lost a major piece to your defense. So
look at Steven's right too. You still got Mahomes. We've said that. You still got the offense. That's good. But when you look at a three-peat chance, man, look at like when Jay Cutler. You can have the best offense in the league, but if your defense is degraded and you went from a top 10 to a bottom quarter, that's a massive shift. It's like when Cutler had that really, really great year. We had a good receiving core, good running back, great OC, number 2 offense in the NFL, but the worst defense. And what did the Bears do? Went nowhere, right? You don't want that situation to happen to Mahomes. Yeah, you've got Mahomes, and he's going to keep you competitive, and he's going to score points. But if you hurt that defense too much, you might still make the playoffs because your division isn't the best division in football. It's not the NFC North, right? It's not as good as the NFC North. You have a better shot at winning that division, even without those guys and anyone else in your division. But when it comes to the playoffs, and now you've got no one pressuring Lamar, you got no one, Burrow, you're letting Burrow run around. If Allen gets in, you're still letting Allen run around. And these good quarterbacks in the AFC that will pick you apart if you don't put pressure on them. That's got to hurt KC. And then if you make the Super Bowl and you got no one to track down, whether it be Love, Fields, Goff, Purdy, Hurts, whoever gets there from the NFC, any one of those guys can pick you apart if you don't put pressure on them. So
one thing I kind of
is Packers fan. We totally get it because how many years did we have outstanding offenses and our defense would just constantly give the lead back up? It was to the point in Green Bay where if we had the ball last, we were excited as shit. We're going to win this one. But if they had the ball last, it was, oh, God, when's it going to happen? At least that was my thoughts when we were going through that shit.
And Steven, you're right. The NFC North, look at the NFC North. I've said this a couple times. I know you've heard me say it. You could win 10 or 11 games in the NFC North this year and might not make the playoffs. I think the North is that good as the division. It's just
I think the AFC North is a better division, to be honest with you.
They're good. Well, in the AFC, they are a very good division. But I'm talking on the NFC side, you might win 10 games in the North and not make the playoffs. The AFC North is a tough division.
That's just a testament how good the NFC is that you have to win a certain amount of games to get to the postseason.
Unless you're in the East.
Yeah. AFC definitely has good teams, but I think the NFC you have to win a certain amount of games to make the postseason, like a minimum, like you said, a minimum of 10 games in the NFC to make it.
And even then, you might not make it.
Yeah,
we made it with 9. We made it with 9, Isaac.
Make the 7th seed, which is crazy. You know what I mean?
You know, I was thinking about this, and it's sort of a nightmare scenario for me. I'm not sure how likely it is, but let's say the Raiders actually do manage to sign Chris Jones, right? But deep down, like they give him a 3-year, $90 million plus guaranteed contract. And then deep down, he's a chief at heart, so he just comes in and just totally tanks takes our money for a year.
No,
and then the Raiders cut him, and they're still on the hook for $60 million, and then he just goes back to the Chiefs, and but he's totally just sunk our cap for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
Like,
no,
I can see some shit like that.
Straight up Albert Hainsworth show. You give him a big ass contract and just fucking goes to sleep on the field.
But the thing is, Albert Hainsworth was just lazy. I'm talking about Chris Jones doing it like intentionally.
The other side of it is like you're good enough. You beat all these teams and almost make the postseason, and then you face the Chiefs, and Chris Jones is lays a goose egg.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he's sabotaging.
Hey,
like he's trying to make it totally obvious, right? He's going to get his numbers, he's going to get his incentives, but then when you play the Chiefs, it's like all of a sudden he just disappears.
Right?
The whole reason he signed him
got in his sights, clear all him to get him, and he's just going to stop and look at him.
I can't hit my homie. My homie's giving me an ownership share in the NWSL team. Him and his wife own. I mean, dude, you want to talk something? It's a little bit.
He like daps him up as he runs by, you know.
Yeah,
dude, you want to talk about a player who's been smart? Think about it. Patrick Mahomes owns a professional sports team.
Yeah,
he's the only.
Joe's on
$500 million.
He looks, and Chris Jones on dapping up Kelsey and Mahomes. They're smoking a doobie before the game.
He is the only.
Actually, I would be breaking my TV.
Active NFL player.
You would see me turn into Rick Mott.
Come on, Joe. He's the only active NFL player who owns a sports franchise. Is Patrick Mahomes? Think about that.
He's the only one who can afford one.
And check this out. Well, he's not the only one who can afford, but check it out. He's also building his own stadium for his soccer team. I mean, his wife, for all intents and purposes, runs their NWSL team, but they own the Kansas City women's soccer club, and they're building a women's soccer stadium only, or a soccer only stadium with Sporting KC, I believe. But Mahomes is basically paying for it. I mean, think about that. Everyone talked about how great Brady did with that, and the other. Mahomes already owns a professional sports franchise and is about to own a stadium.
Now,
one of the things about having Mahomes type of money is that you have really smart people that want to work with you, so they're going to help you grow that money. So it doesn't surprise me that Mahomes has fantastic investments that are going to turn him into a billionaire at some point. Like. Yep.
There's actually one player, but he's a minority owner. Is Aaron Rodgers? He's a minority owner. The Milwaukee Bucks.
Oh, the Bucks. That's true. That's true. He's a minority owner.
Joe, how long of a contract does Max Crosby have left?
I think he has 2 years left.
2 years.
Now, I just thought of a whole worse scenario for you.
Yeah. Let me turn my camera off so he doesn't see my reaction to this. Okay, go get it.
You get Jones to come in for free agency. They go in. Let's say you even make the playoffs, but you don't do too much noise in the playoffs. And the same thing happens again next year. How bad would you freak if he talks Max Crosby into both of them going back over to the Chiefs?
That won't happen. I have zero worry about. I mean, if it happened, I would probably stop watching football. But
wait, Joe, I got the correct response for you for that question. Hold on.
It doesn't happen though.
Football suicide, Joe.
Because Max Crosby is
that's
the
what it
Raider
is.
for life,
Like
dude.
that never happened. You hear that? The squawks of awkwardness. That's not happening, Ken.
Max Crosby is a Raider for life, dude. Like he's as long as they don't do the one thing that would cause him to seek a trade, which is like continue to just rebuild year after year after year. Like if they can build some sort of continuity, they keep AP for a while. Like, yeah, exactly. And Crosby is locked with the coach. I agree. As long as AP's there, Crosby's going to be there for sure.
How about
There,
we?
there
How
were
about,
a lot of us that thought Rodgers was going to be a Packer for life. A lot of people
you
think
didn't.
Aaron Jones
No,
is going
No,
to be a
you
Packer
didn't.
for life.
No,
how about we
you
switch
didn't.
sides?
Oh, I most certainly did. You want to go check the frozen tundra effect and
Hold on,
replays?
I'm smacking.
Hey, how about we
Oh,
switch
shit.
sides and then we give you Mason Crosby and take Max Crosby?
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, Ken,
Keep your
maybe
Crosby.
you, but there were
I
there
don't
were
know.
a
Hey,
lot of
can
Packer
Mason
fans who
Crosby
were
get
ready
us
for Aaron
15
Rodgers.
sacks a year?
There were
Yeah,
there
yeah,
were a
he
lot
did.
of Packer
You didn't
fans.
Yeah,
notice
but
that
can
him
Max
and Kevin
Crosby
was
kick a
not
50
before he
yarder?
took.
No.
Hey,
If
hey,
Mason
you know,
Crosby can get us 15 sacks and like 100 pressures a season, I'm with it.
hey,
Yeah,
Hey,
you know
he's
how
done
Raider,
there were a
it.
lot
hey,
of
you know how
Packer
Raider
fans,
fans
Ken,
prayed to
that were
Sebastian
ready for
Janikowski,
Rodgers to
or,
leave.
you know what I mean?
Oh,
Mason
I know there
Crosby
were a
could be
lot
your
of them by the
Janikowski.
end, but I was not one of them.
Maybe not you, but there was a lot making a lot of noise that they wanted to leave. So, come on, man.
Hey, before everything soured those last couple of years, very, very few wanted him to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
Rodgers
wasn't
kind of
until
did that to himself,
it
dude.
wasn't until the beef with him and fucking Goody where everything spilled out and you had a lot of Packer fans that wanted to move on at that point. But until then, he might as well have been the second coming to Green Bay fans.
Hey, Steven had a good comment here. Like, I don't know if you guys watched the combine when the defensive ends were working out and stuff, but a lot of the young edge rushers that are coming into the league, they asked them, like, who are the guys that you watch? 95% of them said Max Crosby.
Look, if there's only one team, I hate to say this, there's only one team that has a shot at ever getting Max Crosby away from the Raiders. And everyone on this panel except Joe, well, Joe hated it just because he'd leave, but the rest of us would hate it because of where he'd leave to, and that's Detroit. Detroit is the only team he'd ever go to because he's from Detroit. Otherwise, the dude is never leaving Vegas. He is so Vegas, and he loves being in Vegas. You can tell he loves being in Vegas. He dresses like he belongs in Vegas.
Yeah, there's no Bunny Ranch in Detroit.
I mean, well,
No, there's no legal bunny ranch. Get it right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there we go.
Well, and Max,
they may
Max
gamble in
doesn't strike me-
Detroit.
Max doesn't strike me as the type to use the bunny ranch. Max is married. You know, he's got a daughter. He's in
I
recovery.
didn't know he was married.
Like, see, Max in his alcoholic days, I'm sure he probably would have been a frequent patron. But Max now he's living a recovery life, dude. He's I'm not gonna say which fellowship he belongs to, but he belongs to a certain fellowship, I'm sure. And he's living his life on spiritual principles. I don't think that which is good for us, because that means that, like, Max is the one guy you don't have to worry about getting a DUI or doing something stupid and missing time. Like, he's a guy that's going to show up and work every day.
He's
Playing
not
craps in the back
Now,
room.
now, fellas, here's the thing. Remember, I opened the show up by saying last year when it came to, like, with Foles specifically, all the guys he signed on tampering and ended up signing were guys that no one had on the radar for the Bears. No one has Chris Jones on the radar for the Raiders, except for us. Watch, that's what's going to be what happens now.
Well, actually, I saw there was one of the NFL pundits. They said, "Oh, could Chris Jones end up on another AFC West team?" And they were like prodding him, trying to get him to say it. And he's like, he was being real coy about it. And then finally he said, "Look, I'm just trying to, like, not say it's the Raiders." Like, he really believes that
Odds are, though, when the pundits tie someone to someone, 98% of the time it doesn't happen. So let's hope the pundits don't pick up on what we're throwing down.
Yeah.
I guess we're kind of pundits too, though, aren't we? But the whole object of the show today was this: all these guys that we think are tied to teams. Look at what your GM signed, guys. Look at your teams that you follow, and look at last year. How many people were signed that you were tied to before free agency? And then the guys that you did sign, how many of you went, who the heck is this guy? We weren't even talking about this guy. What do you mean he signed this guy? And then you were pleasantly surprised.
The Raiders have been the Raiders have been tied to Leonard Williams, though, which I think makes a lot of sense. If you can't get Chris Jones, that's a decent consolation prize. And Leonard Williams had his most productive years under Patrick Graham with the Giants. So I think that could be I think that's one instance where the pundits may actually get it right. I think Leonard Williams could end up in Vegas with Patrick Graham.
It doesn't matter how good your defense is. You hired Luke Getsy to be your OC.
Yeah, but see,
he's fun.
I get it, and I believe me, it wasn't like I was super stoked about that hire. But I think that the
Raiders, you can tell everybody you were jumping for joy as soon as you heard Getsy was coming to town.
Yeah. That's
hey,
exactly
here's a live listening to Joe's house when he heard Luke Getsy was getting signed.
Yeah, it's But here's the thing, though, is that I think that like the Raiders, for them to hire Getsy, I think that there were certain things in his offense that they liked, and so I think that they had a conversation where they're like, "Look, dude, like we're not going to take your whole offensive playbook and run it like you did in Chicago last year. Like we're going to take certain things that we like, we're going to keep those, we're going to add some new things that fit our players, and we're going to see
you to add some things, yeah, because he's the OC."
Well, yeah, but we also have other guys that are capable, like Tom Coughlin, for example, is.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They told them, "Hey, you're going to be the OC, but we reserve the right to tell you to make some changes to your offensive game plan that you will make, or you're not going to get the gig." I get it. Yeah.
Like we're not going to use your whole playbook. We're going to take half your playbook and burn it, and then we're going to use the other half, and then we'll fill the other half with plays that we like for our players. And you get to call the plays, but. We're going to make some drastic changes to your offense. That's the only way I could see it working.
Guys, we're down to the last few minutes here before we got to sign off for the day. Real quick, let me go around the horn. Give me projections. Rob, how many players do you think hit the open market today from cuts? Just you don't have to give me names, or just how many. Give me a number. How many more guys do you think will be free agents by the end of the day today that aren't free agents now?
Maybe 6 more. I mean, there's probably 15 guys that are probably going to be before it's all said and done.
All right, so we got 6 to 15. Isaac?
Yeah, I'd say around the 15 to 20 mark because, there's other guys that are going to be cut, like, specialists that people don't really think about that get cut from teams all the time.
Okay. Joe?
Yeah, I would say probably 15.
Ken, I'll give you the last word on this one. How many more free agents will we have at the end of the day than we started the day with?
I'm going to say we're going to end up with 5 biggish names guys cut and then 20 in total. That I guess that was perfect.
Yeah, hey, Steven agrees with you, so you're okay. You got a Bears fan agreeing with you. I kind of agree with you too. I think we're going to have a bunch today, and Monday is going to be chaos. And this is such a loaded free agency class compared to last year, with a loaded draft on top of it. The ramifications of what's going to happen Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of next week are going to be huge on the draft. Hence, we have not talked draft too much. But starting probably a week from Monday, you can guarantee we'll probably start talking draft because free agency will have slowed down by then. Look, guys, I won't be here tomorrow. I got to make a run to Miami. No, there's no snow on the beach. That's not why I'm going there. Stop it. But I'm making a run for Miami, so I'll be back on Monday. You guys have a great show tomorrow, guys. It's deadline football, as Rob calls it. Yeah, go ahead, Isaac.
Oh, wear your Tommy Bahama shirt.
Yeah, no, it's not gonna be that kind of trip. Actually, I'm going to pick up a Tim Duncan signed and framed jersey that I will be selling here shortly, and some other stuff that my wife wanted in an auction. But we're driving down to pick that stuff up. But everyone have a great weekend. I won't see you guys till Monday. Don't forget, Saturday we got Frozen Tundra and House Hall on Roku, and Sunday we got House Hall on Roku, and Monday we'll be on Roku, and I'm sure we'll have a ton of crap to talk about. But on my last disappointing take, which it always is, I bid you all a farewell. See you next week, and everyone else will see you tomorrow.
All right, take care.
He has time. He's got the left side. Touch is there. Leaping grab. Touchdown. Touchdown.
going to take the North and never give it back.
Now comes the part where we throw our heads back and laugh. Ready?